Welcome, dear viewers, to a new episode of Dialogue Horizon. In this episode, we will continue actually on the ongoing concern of the Sudan for the last almost 4 weeks about the arrival of the first anniversary of the 25th of October coup, which put the country in turmoil. All of these days are turmoil. The streets are full of demonstrators, and some civil wars started to erupt in certain parts of the country, the east and in the western. Anyhow, we are very glad to host one of the scholars, technocrat. He is a university professor, Sammani Hanoun, and he is an activist in the political arena since the revolution. He's one part of the revolutionaries actually. Welcome, Dr. or Associate Professor Sammani Hanoun.
Thanks, Engineer Abu Haras, for this opportunity, and I am happy to share this special moment of Dialogue Horizon to focus on the hot issue today in Sudan. Thanks for this invitation.
Okay, Dr. Sammani Hanoun, we are very glad also to host you, but let us start by now almost the first anniversary, actually, let us say it, the 25th of October 22 is around the corner. It's only a few days. This means that almost now 1 year, complete 1 year, the country for the first time in its history without a government and without a prime minister, let us say, without a prime minister for 12 months. In the 12 months, the streets are full of demonstrators, and other conflicts started to erupt and to arise in different parts of the country. But let us first talk about what is happening today. Actually, because when General Burhan declared on the 25th of October that this is a corrective measure, not a coup, that because the first 2 years did not work well, a lot of confrontation between the civilians and the military. That's why it made him take the decision to make this coup. Actually, it's a coup because he dissolved the cabinet. Civilians in the Sovereign Council all removed, and only the armed struggle and the military are now in the picture. They are ruling for one year. Some people, they started to say that some are adding that they're completely with the corrective measures of the 25th of October. Others are against, complete against, and this is the majority, I think, of the revolutionaries who succeeded in ousting the Salvation regime. So can you tell us in depth about what is going on? Some people, they started to resent that the political parties, they are the main reasons for the coup. And during the military governance, military regimes, things were a little bit, security is maintained and a little bit better than when the parties are in the power. So tell us in depth what is going on and what's happening, and why the 25th of October coup was taken.
Thank you for this very central questions on the military coup of 25 October. Sudan experienced range of military coups since independence, and up to date experience wide range of military coups. Some of them succeed to capture the power, while others were failed. The military coup, or 25 October military coup, one of these military coups in country that led to the position where some people are in favor of this military coup and others are against, based on the goals of the military coup that mainly target to dismantle the stagnant position as described by military coup leader in the transitional government during the Prime Minister Hamdok government. So they target to dismantle that position, especially they describe power was captured by limited number of small political parties, and especially the pro-socialist political parties. This is one of the goals of the military coup. In other hand, the military coup also announced to take some corrective steps, especially in economics, in political life of Sudanese people. After 1 year, we can judge that the military coup is 100% failed to realize this strategic goal, especially if we examine the economic tightness is dramatically magnified in Sudan due to suspensions of the foreign aid to Sudan. These are foreign aid from international organization, the financial assistance from international organization totally stopped during this period, and the suffering of the people, and especially the vulnerable groups, is magnified dramatically during this year. The political congestion is to the maximum because people now are fighting in different parts of country, and the security position terribly confused, especially in the Blue Nile area, in Darfur, in the east, in different parts of people, the insecurity increased dramatically. So the coup failed to realize the strategic goal, whether in the economic dimension, the political dimension, the security dimensions as well. So it magnified the problems, and now people living in very tight socioeconomic conditions. This is why most of Sudanese people now bargaining and complaining to find way out for the current congestions in the political arena. The military coup complicated the matter to unprecedented levels in different dimensions of life in Sudan. The people are suffering to access even the economic service, to access the political life. They failed in different dimensions of life. So the only way we need to take again corrective step with a new paradigm, with a new approach. In that approach, we have to take civil approach, not military approach. Military approach totally failed to address the stagnant problems of the Sudanese community. We are in bad need to take a new paradigm, new approach in order to solve the problems through civil way of thinking, through civil democratic transformation. This is the only way before Sudanese people to achieve the strategic goal of the December revolution. And this is actually what is happening and running today by the international community, which is supported by the international communities and also local leaders, in order to address the problems of a new civil government, that in order to handle the matters and to pave the way for civil democratic transformation in Sudan. So my judgment is that after 1 year of military coup, our judgment is that it is failed to maintain or to realize the strategic goal mentioned by the leaders of the military coup.
So that's why some people, they are not part. The majority of the people are not politicians.
Yeah.
Politicians in any place in the globe is 10%.
Yeah.
5 left, 5 right, and the 90% are people. They want to live happily and they want to earn their living and they want to be in peace and tranquility. So some people, they started to doubt the efficacy of the political parties. They started talking that political parties are the main cause for military coups because they failed to maintain the democratic system. So do you agree to this allegation?
Yeah, for sure. There is relationship between political parties and military coup in Sudan. If we trace back the history of the political life in Sudan, we can easily discover this fact. There is causal or there is a very strong relations between military coup and the political parties in Sudan. Since independence and up to date, if you make an empirical examination to the relationship between the political parties and the military coup in Sudan, definitely you will end up with very fabulous result that there is causal and very practical relation between political parties and the military coup in Sudan. Most of the military coup in Sudan were sponsored by the political parties. So this is why Sudanese people are very reluctant and hesitant about any slogans raised by these political parties, because they don't trust
You don't trust
this
them.
institution for very long history. If you flash back,
Yes,
since
yes, to bolster you,
Yeah.
to enhance your argument, the civilian rule since independence,
Yeah.
66 years
yes,
ago, since independence, only 12 years under
civil rule.
civil.
Yeah.
The rest,
Yeah, about
about the rest
52
50,
or
this is
53.
military.
Yeah.
30 years salvation,
Yes.
16 years May
Yes,
revolution,
yeah.
6 years Aboud.
Yes.
So 52
2
years,
years
for 2
of
years,
military
Only 12.
years of civil.
This has to be, something has to be revised.
Yeah, definitely. If we examine the share of the military coup, definitely we will find that military coup ruled Sudan for more than 52 years. During this very long history, what is the outcome of this very long period of rule of a military coup in Sudan? The fibrous result that Sudan is suffering from very deteriorated standard of living. Sudanese people are the poorest people among the three poorest nations in the world, Congo and Yemen. The ultimate failure of the political system, the insecurity, and you have a thousand of militias in the country. So it is a dramatical failure for military system or the rule of the military system in Sudan. We need, but most urgent, to move into civil system. That only way before Sudanese to remain as a united country, to go to the civil and federal system in order to address this problem and to accelerate and foster economic development.
And yes, I remind you also one thing. I am very people not looking or thinking out of the box. The box of the parliamentary system. I'm advocating and I am proponent. I am trying to convince people that the failure of the democratic system, not because the parties are bad, maybe the selected system is not good. It's not suitable. It's good. The parliamentary system,
is
the
inappropriate.
prerequisites for a parliamentary system are very, very high level, like in Britain. We inherited it from the British colonization. Maybe when people they start thinking of presidential guided presidential system, I wrote articles on this, and I always remind people. Till this moment we are talking here, and people that are trying to broker a deal. Still they are talking about the parliament system, and always I keep saying the wisdom, the conventional wisdom of Einstein. Einstein said what he said: insanity is repeating the same mistakes and expecting different results. This is only logical. So maybe we'll come if we have time.
I think I just want to add one point, as you mentioned several times. So again, we repeated the same mistakes. Even in the transitional constitutional document wrote by the advocate 2 or 3 weeks back, they mentioned the parliament system. Parliament is again a strategic mistake.
Again,
because you know that parliament system may fit to the advanced nations, but for developing nations, you need presidential system.
Because the decisions are taken
rapidly in order. As you know, if the democracy comes before development, development will not take place because of the different bargaining with groups and different. You need to consult different groups in the society, so that will hinder the development. So to foster development and to accelerate, you need presidential system in order to take decisions on development. Again, we will repeat that the transitional constitution should take care about the parliament system. Parliament system prove not once, twice, several, but couple of years that inappropriate to Sudanese people. We need presidential system for Sudan, that only system will fit the requirement of development in the country.
Okay, maybe this is very interesting. Maybe if we have time at the end of the episode, we can go back to this issue of parliament and presidential system. But let us now go back to what is happening today. Now, almost for the last few weeks, people started to get disappointed by the declaration that settlement is around the corner. Settlement is near.
Reconciling.
A settlement between it is done behind closed doors.
Yes.
Nobody knows who is brokering and who are the partners of the settlement.
Yes.
And why is it a settlement?
Yeah.
Why not an agreement? Why they call it settlement?
Yeah.
No, this means somebody
Yeah.
will get some grantees,
Yes.
the other will get some benefit. This is a settlement. When you
Yeah.
talk about settlement,
People are worried
But,
about this.
Now we are following. Tell us about
Yeah.
why is it a settlement?
Yeah. People
not agreement.
Yes, worry about bilateral, for example, settlement between two parties. And this is actually like quota system to share power. This is the same repeated mistake. So people are reluctant about these positions. They don't like to make any reconciliation under table. You have to make it on the table, and all the concerned parties should share the discussions in order to get fruitful results and to be nationally accepted by all people. Negotiation between the military components and the FFC that create some doubts among the politicians and the active players in the political arena that something under table is going on. And people are very reluctant about the negotiation between these two parties because people cannot repeat the same mistake. So we need negotiation to be on the table and to be shared by all the active players in the political arena. All political players, they have to join the discussions and to be on the table, not under the table. The secret or the what we call the confidential meetings held between the two components that give a rise to the doubts among the politicians, and people are still hesitant and reluctant about the outcome of this negotiation. What will happen? From the experience, they learn that they share power on this basis between in order to continue the same position. So any reconciliations or political reconciliation under table will not succeed and will not solve the problem and will not relax the political congestion in the country unless you address the problems on the most comprehensive way and to share all stakeholders in the political arena with ongoing discussion in order to get national consensus about the outcomes of this negotiation. So under table or what we call the hidden agenda negotiation wouldn't solve the problem but actually will magnify the problem at the end of the day.
So because now people now you are inside. Every now and then they say next week. Even Volker say that about to reach a settlement.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to. Why settlement? Why not agreement? Settlement to me, when you make a settlement, means somebody should give in and somebody take out. Somebody get some guarantees.
Yeah.
Maybe that's they call a settlement. Anyhow, this is not the question.
This is actually settlement is a random way to solve the problem. It is not like agreement. Agreement, I think, more specialized and to be according to the agenda of the discussions and according to the goals of the stakeholder. While settlement is something that can take place according to the negotiations and according to the components who share the discussions with the other parties, and there is no benchmark in order to measure the outcome of the settlement. Settlement is something that randomly and cannot be like agreement between these different parties may be more articulated, more precise than the settlement. Something that based on the judgment of the people who sponsor the settlement. So that may not fit the requirements of many political parties in the political arena. So unless you make a share for all the stakeholders in the community and the civil society organizations, and you make on the table discussion for all people I don't think you will get a total solution for this problem. That will create more problem, as mentioned by the most active players in the December revolutions, that such negotiation or settlement will complicate the matter, will not solve the problem, will put the country in a new track of complication.
Dangerous.
Yeah, that is very dangerous.
Yes, you know exactly. I agree with you. What is really weird is that General Burhan on the 4th of July,
Yeah.
the 4th of July this year, or three months ago,
Yeah.
he declared openly that the army is not interested. The army will go to the barracks and it will stop and cease any negotiation talk. Leave. He said this is entirely left to the civilians. Let them come together, agree, and then come to us. They appoint their prime minister. They appoint their cabinet, and we as army will go to the barracks. That is what he said. But now,
Yeah.
now in the settlement, that's why I'm trying to keep hammering on the word settlement.
Yes.
The settlement, the army is involved back. The army is
Armies,
back.
yeah, within the settlement.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the settlement will not result in consensus that mentioned by the General Burhan. The peoples,
Will
for
not
example, like communist parties and other parties, they may declare exclusively that will not solve in any settlement by two components. And again, this will verify fact that still military component is active in the political reconciliation. So I think by all means, unless we go to on-table discussion that to be shared by all stakeholders in the political arena in Sudan, we wouldn't be able to solve the problem. That will again create a new situation. After the signing this settlement, a new opposition will arise and people will get into revolt against this position, as mentioned by the resistance group and mentioned by other players in December revolution. So our judgment, if we want or if we were targeting to make total solution for political arena in Sudan, we need to make on-table discussion, not on the strategy followed by Volker. That will create again problems among the other people who excluded from this settlement. So people will revolt against this settlement. Settlement should be comprehensive and should be open for all Sudanese people to join. Especially the active players in the political arena, they have to join the discussion. Discussion to be open and on the table and to be attended by all Sudanese people. But taking one track and just focusing on two components, that will get the same result. So it is not a wisdom to repeat the same mistake. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Now, if we go also one of the issues or the difference or the bone of contention to others, to some people, is the draft prepared by the Sudanese Bar Association.
Yeah.
The Bar Association, this draft of a constitution actually, it received some welcome and support from international bodies, all international bodies. They welcome that. Locally, internally in Sudan, also it received some support and welcome, including that of the Vice President of the Supreme Council, General Hamiti. He is with it. On the other side, on the other hand, there are opponents. Categorically refusing and not accepting this draft, and they started to prepare their people to go to take to the streets just in case if it is passed or adopted as transitional constitutional document. So the streets will be replaced. The same streets will be replaced by newcomers, maybe by newcomers. And so this can you tell us? And also they touched the Juba agreement. But not the backbone of the Juba agreement. Maybe they're talking about the tracks. Just give the viewers an idea about the main points of this constitutional draft and why it became to some extent controversial.
The transitional constitutional draft or documents, actually it is appreciated effort by the bar associations or advocate association, which is part of the professional unions. And I think this is the right track to address the problem from the beginning. So this is why accepted by many active players in the political life in Sudan, leaders and civil society organizations, and even internationally supported by the international community, because there is acceptable effort exerted by the advocate to write this constitutional or transitional constitution, but it still needs to be revised. For example, or for instance, the transitional constitution again repeated the parliament systems, which is the ultimate reasons behind the repeated failure of political life in Sudan. So they again repeated the problems, and also they talk about to relax or to open the Juba agreement, Juba peace agreement, with negotiations with or the armed movements, and they mentioned that the armed or the Juba agreement should be revised in order to include other players in the armed movements in order to make national peace program in country. So I think by all means it represents a step forward, but some more modifications are required and some more adjustments are required in order to include all stakeholders in the political life. So the transitional constitutional documents represent a step towards the permanent constitutions in Sudan. So also they mentioned that they need to help the constitutional conference. My suggestions about the constitutional should be after elections. That is, I think, the most appropriate time to
After
call
election.
for after collection, not after election, not before election. Because after you electing the representative of the parliament or the Congress, then that people will be qualified enough to call for constitutional conference. So this will be delayed after elections. The Sudanese people, they can call for a constitutional conference at that time. By all means, the documents represent steps, and there is a very exerted efforts by the advocate to prepare the documents. I have gone through it and I studied. There are some comments and there are some remarks to be revised in the transitional constitution in order to meet the requirements of the period and at least to get the majority. We are not talking about 100% consensus of Sudanese people, but at least to be supported by majority of Sudanese people that enable them in order to establish the government.
Okay, what about a very active, important faction component of the revolution?
Resistant group.
With resistant group, they also prepared
Yeah, the
a document, they call it the charter.
Power of people.
Charter of the power of people.
Yeah.
Is there any contradiction or?
Yeah, there is a contradiction. That is mainly sponsored by resistance committee and the other pro-socialist parties who are main player during December Revolution. These are part of the December Revolution. The resistance group, the Communist parties, the pro-socialist parties are part of the December Revolution. December Revolution. So they have own argument when they introduce the charters of the people power. In that charter, they mentioned actually many facts that may contradict with the transitional constitutions and
prepared by the bar.
Which is against the bar. So that is mainly sponsored and target to dismantling the current position of, most importantly, to dismantle the current military coup in Sudan. And actually, military coup is a part of the settlement in the transitional constitution. So there are some contradictions between the charters of the people power and the transitional constitutional document prepared by bar associations. So if you want to unite, you have again to sit and to make a matching of the two constitutional documents in order to be united in one document that meet the requirements of all people, whether in the resistance committee or in the other civil society organizations.
But do you think that there any way, that is any means of reaching a deal between the two?
It is difficult. There is big gap. Yeah.
The gap is wide. It's very big between.
It is the gap is widened between the two parties, especially this group headed by the moderate party like Umma Party and Democratic parties, while the other group headed by the Communist Party. So the gap is very big between the two groups. The only thing that one party will be in the power and the other will go to the opposition. I think this is the most ideal position for these two groups. One should select the power and the other will be in the opposition. This is the only ideal power, but I don't think they have different school of thought.
No way to
it
match
is
them.
difficult.
No way. It seems to me
It is difficult.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
Amongst that, don't forget amongst the other resistance, the resistance to both.
Yeah.
To both
So we
chapters.
have to establish in any political system there is a government and there is opposition.
But what about the rightists, the
Yes.
Islamic groups, they also rejected.
No, the Islamic groups are part of the collapse system. They are not part of these two groups.
They are not part of two, but they will join.
They will join by new cap.
They will join.
Yeah.
Those
the
who
new
are
face,
against,
new look.
against this. Anyhow, this is a little bit very
Very
complex.
thick. So
situation.
this is why we don't talk about consensus. We talk about majority. We talk about majority. So we have to reduce the ceiling into majority. When we talk about the government, we talk about establish the civil government, we have to talk about the majority, and at the same time we have to preserve the right of the opposition. The right opposition, yes. Because both of them are part of December Revolution. So we have to respect their opinions and even their proposals for power. These are resistance groups and other pro-socialist parties in Sudan. So you need one party will be in the power and the other will go to the opposition.
So and what about the rest? The rest they will be to go to the streets.
Yeah, but the others rightists are not allowed. They exercise power for 30 years. It's enough. They have to go within two new categories.
Okay.
Yes.
Now let us move to another important issue also, which have some people that are trying to visualize. After the December Revolution, the international community showed real interest in Sudan.
Yeah.
They're very enthusiastic to give a helping hand, and they started by the meetings, the World Bank and the IMF and the Troika, all the different countries. They showed some interest in Sudan.
Yeah.
Why this interest? After after the 30 years of Islamic governance, they want to support a big change. Or what is the reason for?
Yeah, as part of recognition to the December Revolution, the international community opened doors to the Sudanese government in order to be heavily involved in the international community. A meeting held in Paris in order to settle the debts of Sudan, and also the prime ministers involved in the negotiation during the General Assembly of the UN, and many international, even the World Bank and the leaders of World Bank were come to visit Sudan, and they launched summit in Khartoum. So the doors opens for Sudan to be integrated in the international community, and that was a strategy after December Revolution. But unfortunately, that was shocked by the military coup in 25 of October, and most of these parties, they were suspended their relations with Sudan, especially the financial institution the debt sponsoring institutions, most of the active players in finance, in economics, in politics were suspend their relations with Sudan due to the political change in country. And even during the meeting of the General Assembly of the UN, they were not enough or not enthusiastic enough to involve with Sudan in any partial discussions or agreement. So Sudan again isolated from the world due to the military change in the country. Unless you go through democratic systems and to establish a sounding liberal democratic system in Sudan, you wouldn't be able to be integrated in the international community. So one reasons the military coup in the country that while these parties, they make very evident and very clear declaration that they are no longer involved in to support Sudan, whether in form of social transfer fund like Samarat and other social assistance fund to the country, or any debt relief in Sudan service or any other activities. They stop totally their support to the new regime in Sudan. So that resulted in actually very fabulous losses to the country and to the people as well. And this is actually what resulted in very now deteriorated and very tight economic conditions in Sudan. So the suspensions of international aid to the Sudanese people resulted in this very stagnant position today in the economy, and even led to the political congestions as a physical product for the bloc in the economic dimension. So people are suffering from the lack of integration in the outside world, and that is actually resulted in this very deteriorated economic, socio-economic and political status in Sudan.
And what about also maybe one of the concerns of the international community that Sudan should be intact and should not go slip into anarchy is the resurfacing of the re-emergence of the Cold War in the world.
Yeah.
And Sudan location is strategic,
Yes.
especially the Red Sea coast.
Yeah.
Sudan has about 853 kilometers in the Red Sea,
Yeah.
and some of the politicians or some of our people here in the after the revolution, they started to rekindle or to restart the talk of hosted President Omar al-Bashir with Putin about the Red Sea and military base.
Security, regional security.
This may be, plus the fact that Sudan's location is very strategic. In fact, now, of course, you heard about in Chad. Chad started to have some political turmoil and demonstrations and killings.
Yes.
Sudan, Chad is sharing the border with Sudan and Ethiopia also. So the location. Do you think that this is also one of the reasons for the interest shown by the international community?
Yeah, Sudan has an exceptional geopolitical location that will not be found in any other countries. Sudan links the Asian with African continent. They have about 850 miles. This is a sea coast in the east, neighboring about 8 countries that deeply influenced by Sudanese discourse, like what's happening in Chad today. The professional associations are leading the demonstrations in Chad today. It's a physical product. Sudan has deep influence in the neighboring countries. So this is why international community pay special attention to Sudan. And needless to repeat, the history of Sudan. The history of Sudan proves that this country with a very solid historical background, and they have very long history in Sudan since the Nubian cultures and the Kushi cultures through the Mahdist state. This country has repeated evidence that played a very great historical role in the humankind development. So they are worried about these positions, and this country with huge resources. Now, if Sudan succeeds to exploit these resources for the benefit of Sudanese people, that will make dramatical change in the whole world, in food, security, in, for example, medicine, in different aspects of life will be deeply influenced, and international market will be influenced by Sudanese products. So they are worried about this very country with rich resources, with rich humans and natural resources. They are worried about this. And as you know, the second war of the nations is a war of resources, waters and lands and food. These are main constraints facing humankind development everywhere. Sudan has very strong potential with waters and food and other strategic commodities that are needed by the world nations. For that reason, the global power today are competing in order to exercise some sort of influence in Sudan, whether the East or the West. The US, the Soviet, the China, different part of world, they are competing to share the pie of the Sudan and to play a role and to have a foot stand in Sudan, because this is a country with huge resources and very exceptional geopolitical location. For that reasons, they are competing in order to get food in this land in this
Land
part
and
of
water, we
world.
have water resources and water.
Yes, to protect their interests.
So the reason for the interest of Sudan, of the International Committee of Sudan, because the revolution came after 30 years of Islamic rule or autocratic Islamic rule, which is harboring sometimes the terrorist groups, and Sudan actually was isolated.
Yes.
Because Bin Laden was here and Carlos was here.
Everyone.
So that's why Sudan. Now the International Committee looking for a new Sudan without these groups who terrorized their countries.
Yes.
Plus the location, you said the location is very important. Sudan is sharing borders with 7 countries, big borders.
Yes.
And anything happening in Sudan, they definitely will have
transfer to them.
It spill over to now. It is already spilled over to Chad. Before that, it spilled over to
Central Africa,
Ethiopia, Tigray. So plus the tug of war between America and Russia on the Red Sea. And the Red Sea in the world is considered as one of the important and strategic waterways connecting Africa and Europe, and this is the main reason for the concern. Okay, that's good. Now let us go to back to the country. Unfortunately and sadly enough, among this turmoil, the political turmoil, some of the civil war started in certain pockets in Darfur, in South Kordofan Lagawa, and in the Damadin area, which is till now claimed alive in 2 days, about 200. So it's something terrible. And people also are afraid that because also the armed struggle troops are inside the capital. Do you think that they pose a real threat to the safety and security of the people in the capital? But let us first start by the reason for the eruption of the civil war in Darfur, many places in Darfur, now in South Kordofan Lagawa, and now in the Damadin area between the tribal
I think
tribes.
There are some direct reasons. Most of this area, whether in the Blue Nile or in Nuba Mountains or the West Kordofan state or in Darfur, by way or another are related to the Juba Peace Agreement. Juba Peace Agreement is a common factor shared among these areas. So I think one of the direct reasons we need to revise this agreement.
Including the East Track also.
The tracks, and even the East Track,
blockage of the
So
main line.
these are physical product to the agreement. And this is why the Constitution mentions a special clause that you need to revise Juba Agreement in order to meet the requirements of these people, these conflicting peoples.
To make it inclusive.
If you examine especially the case of the Blue Nile, it is very evident that Juba Agreement is a main reason behind the positions in Blue Nile area. And if you move to Lagawa, for instance, you will find also there are some dimensions for the agreement. In West Darfur, in Jenena and other parts, you will find the agreement is a common factor. So there are some weakness in the agreement you have to address, and this is what we mentioned several times in dialogue horizons and interview held here. We need to revise the agreement in order to meet the requirements of the peace or the war-affected people. We don't repeat the same mistake. So what is important? There is other indirect reasons. The indirect reason is a deteriorated economic tightness in the country. The failures of the government during the last 10 months to address the subsistent problems of the peoples everywhere in the country. So failure to establish government creates some sort of lack of security among these nations, and also the local government are not competent enough to address these problems. So for package of reasons, we need to revise these cases in order to avoid the emerging and increasing rate of violence in Sudan. If you examine the rate of violence around the country, every day you will discover a new area of violence. So that definitely will lead to national breakthrough, unless we have to control it and to accelerate the political solutions. Delaying negotiation under table, over the table, that will lead this country into catastrophe. Yeah. So we need to pay attention that now these parties, if you go around the country, you will easily discover that rate of violence are emerging and increasing every day. So we have to stop this by political solutions. We have to take the decision. Delaying the decision to settle or to make reconcile for political congestions in Sudan will result in damaging consequences unless we have to take immediate action about the about the government and about the civil development in the country. Delaying will magnify the problems and will result in unexpected outcome.
Even in the capital.
Even in the capital,
that's why people are saying that the presence of the armed groups, armed struggle groups in Khartoum, around Khartoum, they are in camps and around Khartoum. They might cause a real threat to the safety and security of the people of the national capital.
Yeah, strategically, the longer the period, the greater the risk. As you delay the decision to set the government, that will face or encounter many risks. One of these risks, increasing violence in Sudan. Now in Blue Nile area, in Lagawa, and the last 2 months you will find people in the West Darfur. So any part the violence is increasing. In the east also, people are preparing, and always they are making releases in media about. So there is a general environment towards violence. Unless we get it in touch with the new government and we make solve and relax in these political congestions, the violence will increase definitely.
Okay, my last question. We have a few minutes, very few minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
You already talked about it, but let us tell us again. Some people started talking about changing the currency. They say that 80% of the currency is outside. You already said something about this. Can you just tell us, although they changed the currency, it's very expensive, very costly. Tell us about this
they understand, these people understand the lesson very lately. 1 month after December Revolution, we made a call to change the currency. If we take the same path at that time, now we can at least stop this deteriorated position. Changing currency is a must for the economic recovery.
What's something quick that it will do?
That the most important, we need to track money to the banks. Now you have only 20% in the monetary base, about 80% in the cash in the public, hands of public, outside the banks. We want to retract money into the banks in order to be controlled by central bank. But now we cannot control the money because money outside and the forgery of money. People's very active. At least we have to stop forgery of money to stop smuggling money from outside in terms of scam money. So that will create more problems and increase the inflation in the economy. So I think the most way we have to pay the cost of changing the currency in order to make a stable currency with the new protective features, the watermarks, and we have to develop new protective features for our national currency. That is the only way in order to recover the national economy.
So changing the currency is essential. You're saying
Yeah,
it's
it's essential, and we mentioned several
whatever
times
it costs,
here,
it has to be
whatever
done.
the cost, yeah.
It has to be addressed.
Yeah, address it the money with more protective features that cannot be scammed by criminals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Associate Professor Mani Hanoun, for being with us in the last hour. Thank you, dear viewers, for being with us in the last hour. We hope to see you next week in Dialogue Horizon on another issue. Thanks and bye.